What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here for 1077 The Bone, and I'm excited because AEW is coming back to the Bay Area for AEW Collision. That's going to be at the Oakland Arena this Saturday, March 1st, and tickets are on sale now over at Ticketmaster.com. And joining me to talk all about it is AEW Wrestler and the current TNT Champion, Daniel Garcia. How's it going?
What's up, baby Huey? How you feeling, man? I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm doing awesome. So excited to be talking to you. So much to talk about with you specifically in AEW. You guys are on a roll right now. Got some great momentum. First off, yeah, Bay Area, got you guys coming back here. And then next weekend, you have AEW Revolution. Yeah. So, okay, let's jump right into that. So for me, I've been lucky to see you wrestle many times in the Bay Area over the last handful of years at West Coast Pro Wrestling. Also, I believe pre-COVID, I think you were in the APW Lions Cup, Young Lions Cup.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, the Bay Area, like SF, Oakland, like that whole area, it's kind of like my second home in wrestling. Like, obviously, I got my start. I'm from Buffalo, New York. That's where I started. Mm-hmm. I started going to like Toronto. So that's kind of like my, like where I got my beginning at, like the Western New York, like kind of upstate New York, Ontario area. That's kind of where I got my start. But then like the first places I really got opportunities like outside of kind of the East Coast was, West Coast, in the Bay Area, thanks to West Coast Pro. And, it always holds a special place in my heart because of that. I love the city. I love the culture. I love the environment. So I'm really excited to be back there.
Yeah, we love you too, man. And I was talking to you off the air. It's like we met years ago at a West Coast Pro Wrestling show over at the State Room in South San Francisco. And I love the photo you and I took together. I mean, I'm grinning ear to ear, and yeah, you have the best pose ever.
That's just my face. Everyone always tells me whenever I do meet and greets, they're like, you got to smile for this picture. I'm like, that's just how I look. Like, I'm not upset to be here. Like, that's just how my face looks. I'm sorry. I really can't do much about it.
Okay, because I thought it was me. It was like, oh man, who's this big doofus coming over to take a photo with me?
I probably was super tired that day. Was that when I wrestled Suzuki?
Let's see. This was from, I have the date here, December 10th, 2021. So about a little over 3 years ago. I think so. I'm trying to remember now. So yeah, it's a little
I'm
over
not
3
sure
years
what that would have been, but yeah, I probably came from an AEW show. I was probably super tired, but I'll always take pictures, even though I'll look a little bit miserable. I promise I'm not.
Absolutely. And for reals though, I do appreciate you making the time after the show. I was hanging out, talking to some friends, and yeah, you were super cool to talk to. So yeah, I'm super excited just to be talking to you right now. So like, dude, congrats on what you've accomplished the last few months. I mean, first off, TNT Champion, your first singles title with the company. So let's talk about that. Full Gear back in November, you went off Jack Perry. What does it mean for you to be TNT Champion for AEW?
I mean, being TNT Champion is special because you're literally the face of the network. You're the face of TNT that AEW Collision is on every single week. Like, it's very important. You're really entrusted to be the face of a network. And to me, the TNT Championship is so important because that was like the original like workhorse title of AEW. Like, that's Cody Rhodes' title. That's Brody Lee's title. Christian Cage, Adam Copeland, Samoa Joe, Darby Allin. Like, all these great names have held this title. And then someone like Jack Perry, I think he got it and kind of halted the momentum of the title a little bit. He kind of turned it into like what he thought the TNT title should be. And I think what he thinks the TNT title should be is completely different than what it actually should be. So I'm doing my best to, restore the prestige and, bring the title back to the relevancy that it once had.
Yeah, and you've been doing so great job the last few months. Obviously, at the end of last year, the Continental Classic, which I'll get into in a second. But looking ahead to this Saturday at Oakland Arena for AEW Collision, you got a big match. It was announced this week. You're going to be defending against Adam Cole. And Adam Cole, what can we say? One of the greats from the last 10 years. We've seen you guys, he's been eyeballing that title the last few weeks on AEW TV. So what's your head going into this match with Adam Cole, one of the greats from the last few years?
That match was a shock to me. I came to the back and Tony was like, hey, you're defending your title. Because obviously, like, they announced it on TV. I don't see that. I'm in the ring. I get to the back and Tony's like, hey, you're defending your title against Adam Cole this weekend. I'm like, I wasn't ready for that. Come on. I thought, I was very surprised. But, Adam Cole, me and him have, some built up tension over the past couple of weeks. I would say over like the past 4 or 5 weeks. I think we're on a
Mm-hmm.
great run of collisions, maybe our best run ever. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that has to do with the tension that me and Adam Cole have built up. And whenever he's in the ring with me, I see the way he looks at me. You know what I'm saying? And it can only, like, those eyes can only mean one of two things. Either he's got a crush on old DG, or he wants a shot at the TNT title. So if he wants a shot at the TNT title, that's what he's going to get. We're going to get it popping this Saturday.
You just brought up something there about Collision's on a roll right now, and I definitely feel like over the last couple months in the new year, Collision is getting some buzz again, and that's something fans I think put all their attention maybe on Dynamite. Collision, like you said, it's on a roll right now. Where's that coming from? Is it like a new focus? Like, because I feel like for you, obviously, it's on TNT, so you're the
Yeah.
TNT champion. You're one face there. I see Undisputed Kingdom's been doing a lot of trio stuff there as well. So what's going on? Is that something like it's been a focus? Like, hey, how can we build back up Collision to maybe the same level as
I
Dynamite?
mean, I think Collision, like, it's sneaky good. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah.
said, obviously, Dynamite is the flagship show, right? That's undisputed. Like, everyone the Dynamite is the big show. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Collision, it's a really unique locker room where maybe we don't have a lot of the top guys like MJF, Hangman, Swerve, Osprey, Kenny. Even though Kenny will be there, we will hear from him on Saturday.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of these are the biggest names aren't on Collision. These guys are mostly on Dynamite. So Collision,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit of, not in a bad way at all, but it's a little bit of like the misfit toys. I feel like
Okay.
it's a lot of young guys, and it's a lot of guys with something to prove. And it's a locker room because we film Ring of Honor on Saturdays as well for
Mm-hmm.
Collision. So it's just a
Mm-hmm.
locker room full of like hungry dogs, like people who just are hungry for opportunity and are willing to try to find out, to see what it takes to get to the next level. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a bunch of
Absolutely.
hungry people pushing each other to get better. It kind of reminds me of, like, you hear the stories of like SmackDown back in the day, like the
Yeah.
SmackDown 6, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Collision, I think we have a really unique opportunity to, create our own identity of our own show in AEW. Something different from Dynamite, but still in the realm of what AEW is, still in the confines of that.
Okay. And I'm really glad you said that. I've noticed that too. So I'm glad as a fan, I'm noticing kind of the vision that you guys are putting out there. And that's
Hmm.
awesome. So with that being said, though, you talked about like the roster, and you said like a lot of hungry people are on Collision right now. That's one thing I kind of noticed. AEW over the last couple of years, they definitely sign a lot of big free agents, guys that have wrestled all over the world for other companies. We know who all the big free agent signings are. What is your mindset as someone who's been there from the early days? You see like a big name veteran come in. What's your mentality? Are you like, they're taking a spot away from me, or they're taking away an opportunity for me to advance up the card more? Like, I've been here more. I deserve my place up more on the card. Like, what's your thinking when like these free agents come through?
Yeah, I don't think anybody in wrestling deserves anything. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
there's anybody that deserves one thing. I think,
Okay.
so I'm not like, oh, I deserve this over anybody else. I
Mm-hmm.
do realize that in wrestling, you have to be aggressive in the free agent market. I
Okay.
realize that you need to sign, people to keep things interesting, keep things fresh, keep the roster updated, keep people engaged in what's going on.
Okay.
Um, but I am under the impression that what is for you can't be taken away. So if somebody was to come in and I'd be afraid that they take my spot, or if they did take my spot, then that spot wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to carve out my own lane. I don't think that, you know, that Adam Copeland coming in is going to affect what Daniel Garcia does too much. You know what I'm saying? If anything, I
Mm-hmm.
think these are people that I can learn from. These are people that I can wrestle, and hopefully I can beat them, and I can put their head on my fireplace as a collection of legends that I've defeated. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I have a pretty good resume. I've wrestled all these people that have came into AEW that people are
Mm-hmm.
afraid, oh, they're going to take these young guys' spots. I've wrestled all these people. I've wrestled Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, like Jericho. I've wrestled all these people, and I don't think that me wrestling those people can ever be a bad thing. I can't imagine a world where me wrestling people who have been wrestling in the biggest stages longer than I've been alive could be a net negative for me. Like, and
Absolutely.
anybody who says that kind of stuff, I just don't think they really know what's going on.
Yeah, they don't get it. Like, where for you as a wrestler. What does that mean, and the accomplishments and building up your resume as a wrestler?
But
So
but I do understand where they're coming from. I get
okay,
why it
yeah.
could look that way, and
Hmm.
sometimes it can feel that way, and sometimes I feel that way too. But I just gotta get out of my own head, realize what it is, and realize what's for me can never be taken away. So
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, this past Wednesday we saw you team with FTR, which is a little bit different because for weeks, and obviously you guys have history. You've worked with Angelo Parker and Matt Menard, so it's I know you're a TNT champion right now. You're a singles guy right now, but is FTR someone you're going to team with more if when it comes to trios matches, or are you going to go back to the guys Angelo Parker, Matt Menard?
yeah, I mean FTR, like I have a bunch of history with them. Like last year, we teamed for months against House of Black, and we've had a bunch of trios matches together. We had the big cage match against House of Black together where we
Mm-hmm.
won. And they're people who, beyond the screen, beyond the ring, these are people that I really enjoy being around, that I trust, people who help me with not with just wrestling stuff, but they help me with a lot of real life stuff too. And like I said, the people that I trust, I enjoy being around them. If the opportunity ever presents itself again to team with them, of course I'll take it. These guys are the greatest tag team of all time. Why would I not want to team with them? I
Yeah.
think if we're consistent and if we stay together, I think, the sky's the limit of what we can accomplish. We have the best tag team of all time and one of the best talents in AEW. You put that together, who knows what you could get.
So earlier you brought up Bryan Danielson, and as we all know, last year he retired from competing full time in the ring. What does that mean for you to be able to work with Bryan Danielson? I think when you came into AEW, a lot of people saw the similarities of your style and his influence on you. But so now in hindsight, what did it mean to be work with Bryan Danielson in your time in AEW?
It's something I'm very grateful for sure. Me and Brian obviously have a very like complicated relationship, I think to say
Okay.
the least. Um,
Okay.
but I'm very grateful for the time that we spend together and from what I've learned from him, and I think from what I've taught him as well. I think it was a relationship that wasn't just. I think he would say this as well. I don't think it was a one-sided thing where I just wrestled Brian and I learned so much from him. I think he learns a lot from hanging with and wrestling these young guys as well. So it's something I'm super grateful for, and I'll never take it for granted.
Is if I can ask, when you say complicated, is that what you're referring to? Like he's learns a lot from wrestling the younger guys, or can you kind of elaborate what you mean by complicated?
I mean, it's just you see it. It's a complicated relationship. We've had our ups and we've had our downs, and
Okay.
it's just how the business is sometimes.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about that. So, when the Blackpool Combat Club was becoming a thing a few years ago, early on, I think a lot of people thought you were going to join that group. Instead, you went with the Jericho Appreciation Society. If you can explain like how that came to be, like I think it seemed like, oh man, the way you style, the way you come to the ring, your presentation, everything, you'd be a perfect fit for the Blackpool Combat Club. Instead, you went to Jericho Appreciation Society. Whose decision was that to work with Chris Jericho?
um, I mean, that's just how the business goes. Sometimes you think one thing is going to go one way, and
Okay.
it just doesn't. But I think looking at my career now, Jericho tells a story all the time. He could tell, like, when he told me I was joining him, he could tell I was, like, visibly upset because I thought I was going to join my two heroes, John Moxley and Bryan Danielson. I thought that's what I was about to do. And Jericho loves telling that story. When he tells me this, like, my face was just, like, stone faced. Like, he thought I was going to be super happy, like, oh, I'm joining Jericho, da da da. But when he told me the news, I was just, like, stone faced. And because I thought I was doing the other thing. But I
Yeah.
think in hindsight, I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to. I think working with Jericho has made me such a well-rounded performer. I think it really rounded out my game, and it helped me a
Mhm.
lot. Like it gave me the courage to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. And me and Jericho just have a very, very good relationship. He's somebody I'm very grateful that I gotten to work with and I still get to work with. His A lot of people take him for granted, man. Like I know people say what they say, but that's Chris Jericho. Don't
Yeah.
forget,
Yeah.
like, don't forget who that. Like that's literally Chris Jericho. People are like, oh, like you're not upset that you had to be in the Jericho appreciation spot. Like you're upset that I had to be in a group with Chris Jericho for 2 years. Like, come on, like, keep it a buck. Like, I'm so grateful for the time I spent with him, and I learned so much.
Absolutely. He's one of the all-time greats. He's the GOAT. And yeah, I've known Chris for a long time. So I can only imagine for you as a fellow wrestler how much you learned from him. So that's really cool to hear. But also, I really wanted to ask about the great feud with Jack Perry leading up to Full Gear last year. Yeah, that great stunt where you guys put him on his van, drove off, you beat him off site somewhere, beat him up,
Pause.
and that stunt though, that was a little scary. I mean, I'm watching this. You guys throw him, lock him down on the front of his van, drive off. Was that kind of scary to film that, live, as far as like, want to make sure everything goes okay?
Sometimes you just got to do it. I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you're afraid to do something, but usually when you're afraid of something, it means that you're right behind something great. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that I'm really glad that we did it. I think that's something like, as far as Jack's career goes, I think people will remember that forever. Like, that's going to be a definitive moment for him, and I think for me as well. So that's something I'm glad we did, even though it was
Yeah,
quite terrifying in the moment.
I can only imagine, but it's cool, man. Like those type of backstage segments are always fun to watch. So I'm glad to see you get involved in storyline segments like that. It's cool. It just adds layers to you and what we see on TV. But back in the ring though, so Continental Classic, ended last year. Really cool matches at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. That's a legendary venue. So I can only imagine as a wrestling fan how cool it was. But from your perspective, what was it like to wrestle at that venue?
It was super dope. I feel like, it kind of brought something different out of me. It brought out a side of me that I haven't felt in a while at that point. I wrestled Shelton Benjamin and I wrestled Kyle Fletcher. And me and
Mhm.
Kyle Fletcher, the main event of Dynamite, I feel like that's, what modern wrestling is supposed to be. It was like me and Kyle, we were like a great kind of like Ring of Honor, like throwback, it felt like, but a more
Yeah.
like modernized version of it. And I think that is the new wave of, kind of like what AEW should be. I think me and Fletcher kind of gave a little preview of the next 10, 15 years of AEW with that match.
And that's exciting to hear just because I know, like, you re-signed with the company last year. A lot of people were excited for you to return. With that, though, you've had some feuds under your belt now that you've been building up as a single star. You had the great match with Kyle Fletcher. You had the stuff with Perry, MJF as well. Do you have a favorite feud right now in your time in AEW thus far?
Man, the Max stuff was cool.
Hmm.
Um, I think me and Wheeler Yuta, kind of have a rivalry that transcends our time at AEW. Like, we've had a rivalry for the past, and it's not like necessarily a consistent rivalry where it's like where we have like a month-long thing where we were doing stuff all together. It's kind of just something where some stuff happens and it stops, and some stuff happens and it stops. So I think when it's all said and done, I think me and Yuta is going to be a generational rivalry where we, hopefully wrestle each other for the rest of our careers.
Yeah, no, that'd be great to see. I'm digging that. And also, it was cool to see you in the ring with Shibata not too long ago. Is there anyone else so far that maybe on the AEW roster, or even New Japan? Is there someone else that you haven't had a chance to work with that you really want to?
I've never wrestled Samoa Joe. Me and Samoa Joe have never done anything together.
Okay.
Me and Takeshita have never wrestled in the AEW ring. Well, we did like a tag team match, but we've never had a singles match.
Hmm.
And as far as New Japan goes, um, Gabe Kidd is somebody who I would just love to hit in the face. He's somebody who I think a lot of people could kind of compare us. I think we're both bald, brash, young men.
Yeah.
And he's somebody who I have some history with as well. We've never touched in the wrestling ring, but he's somebody, if you go back, you can find the tweets, you can find the videos of us, kind of going at each other. And he's somebody who he's having a career year right now. He had the match with Kenny at the Dome. I'm
Hmm.
somebody who's having a year as well. I have the TNT title. I'm a champion of a network. I'm the face of a network, and he's becoming the face of a company. Gabe Kidd is becoming a legitimate face of a company. And, he's been on Collision the past couple weeks, so hopefully we can cross paths. I can hit him in his loud British mouth, and we can see what happens.
Right on. And the night that you won the title at Full Gear was also the debut of the Costco guys in AEW. And I just have to ask this. I'm with you. I kind of just recently got onto them as far as discovering who they were and everything. But I got to ask, man, how cool was it to meet the Rizzler? Like, to me, the Rizzler's the star of that group.
Oh man, the Rizzler was cool. He feels like a 50-year-old man inside of a, I don't know how old he is, like
I think he's
8-year-old body. So 8. Yeah, so it was really it was interesting. It was a unique experience. He seems like he's funny. He has great comedic timing. He's an interesting kid, you know. That whole family's cool. Like they're all sweethearts.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's cool what they've been doing with AEW. So look forward to seeing what more stuff they can do throughout this year as well. So listen, Daniel, I have one last question, and the genesis of this started because, you know, I work at a rock station here in San Francisco, and my coworker Chasta, whenever we interview bands and stuff, we end our interviews with the Almost Famous question, which is the movie, came out about 25 years ago. Not sure if you've seen it or not. No biggie if you haven't. The last question in that movie is, what do you love about music? And we get some great answers from all the different bands and artists that we've interviewed. And I was like, you know what? I should kind of spin that around and do like a pro wrestling version and start using that in my interviews with pro wrestlers. And so, yes, Daniel Garcia, what do you love about pro wrestling?
Man, I love about wrestling is you can tell real life stories through an art form, if you want to call it. Like you can tell things about real life. You can tell stories about culture. You can, like, whatever's going on in the world, you can present that and express how you feel and express how you feel about certain situations through a medium that is live every single week. So it's like you can be so current with it. You don't have to wait months and months to film it. It's kind of like SNL. You can like tell pop culture. If something goes on the day before, you can tell it the next night on TV, you know? And that's what I like about it is you can just really like tell stories about real life through a real life emotion, real life stories, real life experiences through a medium that, you know, I think not everybody enjoys wrestling, but I think if everybody takes the time to sit down and watch it, everybody can relate to something in wrestling. And I think that's what I like most about it.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So listen, Daniel, thank you so much for making the time. So I encourage everyone, get your last minute tickets for AEW Collision this Saturday, March 1st at the Oakland Arena. Ticketmaster.com, also AEWTix.com for more info. I'll have all the links over at 1077thebone.com as well. And Stack Show, as it was announced this week on Dynamite, Mr. Garcia, you were defending against Adam Cole for the TNT Championship. Also, we got FTR versus Kyle O'Reilly. And also Kyle O'Reilly,
hometown boy, Powerhouse Hobbs from Oakland.
I was gonna say Roderick Strong. Hell yeah, we're gonna see Powerhouse Hobbs in action as well, and we're gonna hear from Kenny Omega. So stack card here. I'm looking at the graphics right now. It's gonna be awesome. Oakland Arena. That's the place to be this Saturday. And of course, you know, hey, remember, check out AEW Revolution. That's gonna be next Sunday, March 9th, live on pay-per-view down in Los Angeles. So Daniel, thank you so much for making the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, baby Huey. Appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Good luck this week against Adam Cole, and hopefully we see you continue on with an amazing TNT Championship title reign. Thank you.
Let's get it. Thank you.